In today's video, I'm trying to tackle the repair options that we have for these little Casio televisions made from the 1980s to the 1990s. A lot of them have the green screen of death, and they also have a fishy smell. The fishy smell is coming from some of the capacitors. However, a lot of people throw around capacitors as the solution to all problems. And many times, a lot of electronics people and experts have actually given wrong information. So I only could find one person who got one of these working by replacing the capacitors. In this video, we replaced a lot of the electrolytic capacitors, and the backlight is brighter, the noise is less noisy, and also I think I tried putting a video signal in it before and it didn't go through, but now I was able to get a video signal through and audio, so I wouldn't count that as definitive because maybe my output wasn't working before. But now it is detecting and switching channels. It's just that the LCD is having issues. So that's the scope of this video. And I would like to hear what you guys think could be the next problem, or if you've had any experience of this, because we need to start collecting this information together. And if it turns out it's easy to fix, kind of like a Game Boy, where the original Game Boy, you can just solder the ribbon cable a little bit more and reconnect it with the monitor, with the LCD, the dot matrix, then if it's that simple, I might buy a bunch of these and start restoring them. Well, here's the video. Here lately, I've been trying to get through a lot of projects. I've actually been getting through projects that I started back in 2013, 2016, projects that I started when I was a kid, but I realized, you know what? There was this little project that I started in 2022, and now my life is in a better spot. I have more tools, we have an apartment. I can actually tinker with this. This is a Casio TV-400 that doesn't work. And I believe it's the capacitors that have gone wrong. They've gone bad. Well, I happened to find a allotment of capacitors that has a lot of the same ones in it. So I ordered it, and I don't even have the patience to film a really good intro. Let's start putting some capacitors in here and see what happens. I'm going to put it back together and throw a few rechargeable batteries in here, and we'll see how it's acting right now. When I first got this, it had some AA batteries inside of it, and they had just absolutely exploded, which is so unfortunate. And I didn't have time or resources. I didn't have my workshop. We didn't have the apartment. Nothing. And so I didn't have an ability to clean it out. But still to this day, it turns your hands into this weird smell. It puts this weird smell on everything. So I think that acid is still inside of it. Well, I'm going to try wiping it down again, but gosh, it just reeks of like kippers, like acidic fish oil. My first look inside of it. Yeah, that's where that smell is coming from. Gross. I'll have to clean that up with some isopropyl alcohol. Okay, I've gone through and I cleaned it off and got some pretty nasty yellow stuff off. This side has a pretty rough solder job and a lot of oxide. This other side had so much brown goo drawn down to the ribbon cable. I washed around that. The board is kind of unscathed. A little bit of damage right there. I might brush that off, but it shouldn't be making a connection. And yeah. I'm going to look through that bin and look for some electrolytic capacitors. I got one in. I only have a 16 volt 100 microfarads capacitor, so it'll have to do, and it'll lay off to the side. The other one, which is a 6.3 volt being replaced with a 16 volt one, will also have to be on its side, but that shouldn't be a problem. All right, with that in, we now have these two ones, which they are 50 volt, 4.7 microfarad, and I happen to have exact replacements. So we're lucky on that. I hate whenever tweezers don't tweeze. Oh. Actually, it meets right here. Oh, there. Now the only one left is this 10 volt 220 microfarad. Let's see, 220 10 volt. Okay, well, let's see, we can do the 220 10 volt, or we can do the 220 25 volts. Is this one shorter? No, it is not. Okay, well, we can just put the other one sideways. I had to hide it sideways because it was a bit tall, but that shouldn't really do anything too troubling. So that's all the big capacitors on this board changed. I don't think I broke anything. Well, besides the solder globs on this RF shield, let's see what happens when I turn it on now. All right, so I checked the ribbon cable. It does go through. I think, well, maybe we should change the capacitors on this board. Well, I was just watching some videos on seeing if anybody's tried to repair these, and instead of just saying it's the capacitors, and I've seen other people now mention the fish smell, so that must be the capacitors. I don't think it was the batteries. So I suppose this is where the issue is on this board. Smells a little bit fishy, yes. It certainly does. Looks like something's leaking out of that yellow one. Just trying to get as much visual information as I can by looking at the reflections and such. Okay, yeah, desoldering that capacitor has released a very weird fish smell. And cleaning up this board, it is just covered. Now that I have this one in, I'm actually going to mark the top of every single one that's original. Of course, I can't douse it in isopropyl alcohol now until I replace all those, but oh well. You know, the one thing I noticed is that this is no longer producing that high-pitched sound. I mean, it's not producing any sound, but... Looks like a little bit of corrosion around the solder mask, or whatever it's called, there, on the smaller capacitor. Now this is after I cleaned it up. I would like your guys' input because this says 22 6.3, so I'm presuming that's 6.3 volts, 22 microfarads. I replaced it with a 10 volt 22 microfarad. I hope that's okay. Oh, it was a 16 volt 22 microfarad. I replaced it with this one. I replaced 5 of them. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I was about to give up for the evening, but I thought, well, I was able to find one person who actually was able to fix one of them with replacing the capacitors. So I thought, even though it's doing the same thing, let's replace the remaining 5 capacitors. Wait, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it's just 4. Replace the remaining 4 capacitors and see if that does it. I have them replaced, and now that I have them replaced, I realize 2 of them were 50 volt capacitors, so they probably were pretty important. So this may have actually made quite an impact. Only one way to find out. Doesn't look as green. It's still a bit green though. So the only thing I have that's an actual video source is this. And let's see. So it's noticing something on that, but none of the audio is getting through. All right, so old stuff was biting me in the butt. I can't get my Snake Rattle and Roll cartridge to run. It was just it's just having a black screen. I also think that my little RF splitter is going bad, my Nintendo one, because just having a wire going in works way better. I just won't get the signal. This is way better than before. I presume it goes down each channel until it hits something that it sees signal on. It's the next day, and you know, I feel like that was pretty good progress. I got that fish smell out, and the backlight's a lot brighter. The audio is better. I just need to take the next step and really look at the LCD. Now for some reason a bunch more fish smells coming out. So that circuit board probably still needs to be cleaned, which is unfortunate. It's such a gross smell too. I don't think I can really go much further without an oscilloscope. And sadly, my oscilloscope broke. Well, that's pretty much it for inspecting the capacitors. I haven't inspected any of the surface mount components, but at least for the electrolytics, it seems like those did fix issues, but not this issue. And I didn't check the other components on the board either, just the obvious electrolytics. I'm curious if the same fix that fixes the Game Boy can fix this. Like possibly heating up the connectors or something like that. But since it's entirely green, I feel like it must be a component that decays. Well, I'm going to leave it there, and then maybe I'll revisit this whenever my tool supply and workspace has been improved yet again, and we can continue on. All right, one minor correction. That capacitor was too large, so I had to put another one in at an angle so it didn't crash into the screen. But we can proceed. Well, that's pretty much it. It is back together, and with the antenna fully out, you can get a little bit of the radio signal interference from it. So I'm going to leave with that. Please let me know what you found, and let me know what you think I should do next once I get my oscilloscope working.